Right, we're going live on. God damn it. Never looks the way I hope it will before I set it up. Like half my head is missing. That's better. What's up, everybody? Yeah, I guess what's up, nobody, because nobody's watching. But out of like 120 subscribers, you wouldn't really put all your beans in that basket that you're gonna have most of them, any of them, one of them watch your live streams. But maybe we'll get there a day, and who knows, we'll have some interesting conversations back and forth through like group chat, yada yada. But I just wanted to finish this joint before I get on with everything. Set up my other phone, because I use phones only to make these videos, and they have to be set up ever so perfectly right, one on top of the other, so I get the same angle. It doesn't look like I'm looking at two different things, you know? Like, it's a pain in the ass. Plus, I'm kind of weird about having the desk in frame. Like, I want to have like the bottom of the microphone, you know what I'm saying, to where you can see it, but I don't want it to be to where like you see none of my head, which is why I had to change it at the beginning. Looks fine. Alright, so let me take a few more puffs, start the Facebook live stream, and we will get underway. Alright. Oh yeah, don't have a mouse for that one. Starting my video. And Facebook's quality is always way worse than YouTube. So, what's up, Facebook? Alright, so, on today's show, we got a few things to talk about. Some good things, some bad things. Starting off, a bad thing that turned into a good thing. So, the West Virginia teacher strike ended today. Hallelujah. This would mark the 9th day that they have protested, and they finally got the secessions they wanted, the provisions they wanted, which was at least just a 5% raise, and also they wanted better health care, or better, they wanted to get rid of a program that would have made their health care more expensive, because when you're barely able to make ends meet, and you have to choose between groceries and feeding your kids or paying your bills, it can get a little tricky. So, we've all heard about West Virginia. Now, the victory is awesome. So, the Senate was the only thing holding it up, the state Senate, from actually becoming signed into law, because the governor was in favor of the 5% raise. But they wouldn't go any over 4, you know, because, you know, people never want to lose a political battle, even if it's like the most obvious thing in the world, like making sure your teachers and their families stay alive. But who knows? So, they got all those things put in, and that's fucking awesome. And guess what? It's illegal what they did. Imagine that. To strike, I guess the federal, you know, government can say employees can't strike. I mean, you wouldn't want a military to strike, you know, but during a war. But, well, I would, but that's never going to happen. At least like an offensive war like the ones we do overseas right now. But it shows the power of collective bargaining. And that's why insurance companies don't like it. That's why a lot of fiscal Republicans or conservatives don't like it. It's because it gives people the power. Because people, they don't like you having the power. They don't like it when people have the power. That's the biggest illusion that they sell everybody. It's that your vote will affect change in Washington or your district or wherever. But no, the truth is that person is going to change. That's it. That's why we have a representative democracy, and our representatives don't represent us, because almost all of them, the vast majority, take corporate donations for their campaigns and yada yada. So this kind of segues very nicely into the next story I wanted to cover from boingboing.com. I know it doesn't sound very reputable or credible, but hey, it sounds well sourced, and I found it on other places, and it's not made up. But this is absolutely amazing that this is happening, I would say in the year 2018, but like we've been screwing our teachers out of their benefits and pay for so long. It's unbelievable. Oklahoma schools go on a 4-day week so teachers can work at Walmart on Mondays to make rent. You heard me right. Teachers in Oklahoma have to work at Walmart to make ends meet, so their kids don't even get to go to school for a normal school week. Now, aside from the fact that I think that the school week should be 4 days, because studies have shown that a 4-day school week is more beneficial towards a child's attention and development and quality of life. But this isn't a reason why. So let me read on. Oklahoma schools go on 4-day weeks so teachers can work at Walmart. In 1992, Oklahoma passed a ballot initiative saying that the state could only raise taxes with 3/4 majority in the state assembly. Want to guess if that was a Republican or Democratic legislation? This created a one-way ratchet where every tax cut becomes effectively permanent, including sweetheart deals cut for frackers and the deep cuts to taxes and to the wealthiest residents of the state. As a result, the state is going broke. So Oklahoma was it Oklahoma or Ohio? Oklahoma. Yeah, because Sam Brownback was the governor, and he tried to sell the people of Oklahoma this idea of basically libertarian land, where like there's no income tax, is the bare minimum taxes that could be implemented were, and even those he tried to get rid of, saying that, you know, the same old trickle down bullshit we've all heard, you know, if the wealthy get more money, then it trickles down to the rest of us. And of course that's not true, because the wealthy just reinvest their money into the stock market. But teachers in Oklahoma haven't gotten a raise in 10 years. And the only way they can afford to accept the pay, the third worst in the nation, so right behind West Virginia, is by negotiating a 4-day school week in 90 districts, freeing teachers up to take jobs at Walmart on Mondays to make ends meet. I honestly don't know what to say about this. This is mind-blowing. How? First of all, Walmart, when they try to sell us the bullshit of, oh, we can't pay all of our employees, you know, X amount of dollars, let's say $20 an hour a week, because it would effectively ruin our business model. Well, yeah, Walmart is a business and they're a corporation, and they're designed to milk out all the money they can. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with the concept of creating a smaller work week, like a 39 hours, so you don't get the full 40 hours, so you don't get the benefits, things like that. You know that Walmart employees, I believe, receive like 1/4 of all SNAP benefits. Fucking Walmart employees! You're working at one of the most successful companies in the world, and they can't pay you a nickel and a dime extra to make sure you can live comfortably, because of course it'll mess with their business model. Their business model is cutthroat. It's eliminate all local business by driving them out and selling all their shit in one store, and then paying their employees shit so that they don't have to, worry about covering their health care, dental, retirement, yada yada. So, teachers in Oklahoma are taking Mondays to make sure that they can afford the groceries at the place they work. Isn't that just mind melting? I'm sorry. Not melding. That's a totally different thing. Teachers are fleeing the state in droves, including the Teacher of the Year who quit his job in 2016 shortly after receiving his award, taking a better paid teaching job in a neighboring state, the Dallas school system, which actively recruits Oklahoma teachers with Oklahoma City hiring booths. Teachers are especially hit hard. Their health plan, does that sound familiar? Just like West Virginia. Their health plan was replaced with a private system that eats up more than $1,000 a month for a family of 3. One aide was actually paying to work her job, spending $200 a month more on health insurance than she was paid in salary. Point number 2. It's time for Medicare for all. No more rapacious private healthcare plans. It's making money off of sick people. It's the most fucked up imaginable way to run a business. And then they do the best that they can to just say, fuck you, if you have a pre-existing condition, we don't want to insure you because you would be a liability, and at that point cost us money. So, no, we don't want to give teachers insurance. Why? Huh? We can't give every American insurance. Well, it's not giving insurance. That's a false notion. It's Medicare for all, which is a single payer, which means it comes out of your paycheck, everybody's paycheck. So if you really believe taxation is theft, don't worry. Everybody's being stolen from. But the majority think you're stupid and would totally disagree. They just want their taxes to go to more effective things like paying teachers. So, you have teachers leaving the state in droves. Obviously, Texas is a little bit wealthier. I just moved from DFW myself. It's a great place. A lot of strange political opinions in Texas, but that's a whole nother story. So, just imagine paying to do your job. I mean, she must have a spouse that brings in the money, and she just loves her job that much, because there's literally no other way I can explain that. Why would you pay to work a job? That's slavery. It's worse than slavery. Slaves can't own private property, so I guess they can't be in debt. But we'll call it modern day slavery. But she loves these kids so much, she's willing to put away $200 of her own money every month to make sure that she stays in the classroom. And I don't blame teachers for fleeing the state. I would too. Until the politicians get their shit together and prioritize what's really important, like education, infrastructure, and healthcare, then we're going to keep seeing these kinds of stories. And Oklahoma teachers they've had enough too, so now they're planning strikes and walkouts, and it's the only way we're going to see change. And what is the ultimate solution? Should the whole country go on strike till we get Medicare for all? Because it would save us over $30 trillion over 10 years. From what we're paying now, the best healthcare on earth. Single payer would deliver the same quality of care at a much lower price, because if you're familiar with collective bargaining, which is what these teachers did to get their wages raised, well, collective programs like social programs where everybody pays into it so everybody gets something out, it's kind of the same thing. It's like Social Security. The reason, you know why we have Social Security, by the way, because a lot of people don't, especially millennials. Because in the 60s and before that, old people just died. They just died because they didn't have money for going to the doctor. People will say the closest thing we had to free market healthcare was, you know, prior to the 1950s. That's bullshit. Because, well, I mean, it was free market, of course, but look at the externalities that result from that. You have your grandma dying because she can't afford an aspirin. It's insane. But Oklahoma politicians need to wake up. I know that I know that we need a radical change in the country where a living wage is guaranteed to all. Medicare for all is a right. Healthcare is a right, not a privilege. You know, we have lots of disagreements about guns, about the economy itself. The right and left split has obviously just gotten worse, but it's not socialism. It's socialized medicine. And you need to learn the difference. And if you keep pointing at Venezuela and Cuba as your only examples, pull your head out of your ass and look at where we're getting the best healthcare outcomes. And look where the best teacher pay is. Look where the best educations are. It sure as fuck isn't in America. And that's embarrassing, being the wealthiest nation on the face of the planet. So, I mean, in West Virginia, the teachers finally had enough. They said, we're going to not work until we get what we want. And guess what? That's what politicians fear. That's why it's illegal, and they still did it. It's called civil disobedience. And I respect every single person who took place in these strikes. I respect every single teacher, staff member, student that understood that their teachers' pay and quality of life is an important thing. And, you know, to hear Republicans on the floor of this state Senate pointing the finger at the teachers basically is holding the kids hostage, and, you know, the most important thing is for our kids to learn. And if they're not learning in the classrooms, where are they going to learn? What are they going to do at home? How are teachers gonna live when they're paying to do their jobs? So, yeah, that's a fun story for everybody to cover. So, now that we've covered the teacher ordeal, and let's hope that gets better, because it certainly needs to. There's a... Where did it go? Alright. On to the next story. So, I made a video a long time ago called, Is Donald Trump an Authoritarian? And I went through the characteristics, the definition of an authoritarian, and laid out the case that, in fact, yes, he is one. He has made several friendships with the oligarchs and the ruling elite of, like, dictatorships, and loves the tactics of strongmen like Rodrigo Duterte in the Philippines, which is apparently where this brilliant inspiration came from. So, Trump suggests death penalty to stop the opioid epidemic. Some countries have a very, very tough penalty, the ultimate penalty. And by the way, they have less of a drug problem than we do. President Donald Trump said, "We have pushers and drug dealers, and they're killing hundreds and hundreds of people." Trump said this at a White House summit for opioid abuse. If you shoot one person, they give you life. They give you the death penalty. These people can kill 2,000, 3,000 people, and nothing happens to them. Okay. First of all, no. The person who took the drugs is responsible for their own bodies. Easy as that. If I want to go and eat a Tide Pod, you can tell me I'm as stupid as you want, but you can't stop me. And you can't throw the, leader or the CEO of Tide into jail because I ate a Tide Pod. But he goes on. Some countries have a very, very tough penalty, the ultimate penalty, and by the way, have much less of a drug problem than we do, he said. The remarks follow media reports earlier this week that Trump has privately praised countries like Singapore that mandate the death penalty for drug traffickers, arguing a softer approach on substance abuse won't be as successful. The remarks are likely to rankle administration critics. Rankle? Who finds these words? They must have a lot of time spent using a thesaurus. All right. Oh, God, where was I? Rankle administration's critics who have urged the White House to focus on the public health component of the opioid epidemic. So, the president's remarks did not touch on the health approaches like creating additional funding for drug treatment. And of course he didn't. Listen, when you're somebody who's an authoritarian, the answer is always more authority, more violence, or, like in the case of the Parkland, Florida school shooting. He wanted to arm all the teachers with weapons. Well, not all the teachers, only the very well-trained teachers who are ex-military and go through training. And I don't want a gun in any classroom, dude. We have a problem, though, and I'm willing to admit it. And if that does mean letting a few teachers or administration staff conceal carry in school, I don't see a huge problem with it. Of course I want them to go through rigorous training, but we're at a point where it's not going to stop anytime soon until we do change these gun laws. And I think that while it is scary, yes, to have guns around children, and of course more guns is not always the answer, I think in some cases, in some places where the obviously school board and teachers feel okay with it, I think that that's all right. But his initial thought behind that is more guns, because the only way to stop a good guy with a gun is a bad guy with a gun. And the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And guns don't kill people. People kill people. Ha ha. Okay. Let's break down some of those arguments. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. People kill people using guns. Guns are a tool for killing. That's so stupid. That's the only thing that they're designed for. So, and if you want to go there, motherfucker, bullets kill people. Guns just shoot them. So, let's restrict some gun laws, yes, but that's not where I wanted to keep going. Yeah, God damn it. I can't go on these side rants without losing my train of thought. So, back to the story. Some countries have a very, very tough penalty. So, he wants to implement the death penalty for people caught trafficking drugs. Now, in places like Singapore, drug trafficking just means getting caught at the airport with like a kilo of coke on you. It's like, I don't even know what the amount necessarily is, but I've been watching this show. It's called Locked Up Abroad. I think it's produced in the UK. It's really good. But almost every single one of these guys got, sent to jail for drug trafficking in like places like Thailand, the Philippines, or Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, and almost every case they were like being paid to do it because they couldn't get back home or something. But I mean, it's not a lot to be called drug trafficking. It's just smuggling drugs, if you will, or transporting drugs. How is that solving that? Are we gonna go and throw the CEO of Pfizer in jail and then electrocute him? Or I'm sorry, no, we stopped using that. We would use lethal injection. Should we euthanize the, CEO of, how can I not, Eli Lilly? Should we inject oh, what's his name? The new secretary of Health and Human Services. Oh, I can't remember. Alex Azar. Yeah, let's give him the death penalty for working for, I mean, he's definitely a drug dealer. All these pharmaceutical reps, are we trying to throw them in jail? No. He wants to stop the opioid epidemic, which is entirely fueled by the prescription drug. Sorry, which is entirely funded by the the prescription drug industry. That's where all the opium comes from. Heroin is just like a crude version of like it's basically a street manufactured opioid in a very similar way that a pharmacist would make it, but every single opioid addict uses it because they can't get their prescriptions anymore. So it's a prescribing problem. It's an overprescribing problem, to be more specific. And Trump's solution is to kill drug traffickers. Okay, look, we have a problem with people dying, no doubt. And it has been from heroin, but it's not the heroin that's killing them. It is the fentanyl. All the fentanyl or carfentanil that they put in the heroin, which is like a pin needle size of potent, straight up fentanyl is enough to kill me. That's amazing. I think a penny's worth. So if you took a same mass of a penny in fentanyl and gave it to 5 elephants, it would kill them. That's how deadly that is. So if anything, we should straight out ban fentanyl, because unless, I mean, there could be people that need that's the only thing it could work for them. It's like 5,000 times stronger than morphine, or 50,000 times stronger than morphine, one of the two. And when these drug dealers get it, they cut shit heroin with fentanyl, and people are like, oh man, this is great stuff, and then they die. So, let's see. It's also unclear whether harsh sentences for drug dealers lower drug level or lower the drug use in a country, while Singapore, quote, has done a pretty good job of reducing drug consumption, end quote. Countries like the Philippines, Thailand, and Malaysia still have huge drug problems, Kierman said. And that's Mark Kierman, who leads the Crime and Justice program at the New York University Marin Institute of Urban Management. God damn, that's a fancy place, it sounds like. He also says, we have done the experiment with mass incarceration to shrink the drug market, and it failed. Between the 1980s and today, the number of drug dealers behind bars has gone up by a factor of 30. And the prices of heroin and cocaine have fallen by more than 90%. So the problem with putting drug dealers in prison is there's another drug dealer to take his place. Which is totally true. I mean, obviously true. And we know, I've already explained why we even have the war on drugs. It's to criminalize blacks and white liberal hippies by the Nixon administration, and earlier beyond, marijuana is called marijuana because, and that means it's a Spanish word for like wild tobacco. It doesn't even mean cannabis, but it was associated with Mexicans, and they were saying it was going to make them rape white women. And with crack, it's going to make black people rape white women. See how they kind of use these tools of social engineering to fuck us all over and profit off of. I mean, we know the CIA did this stuff too, that they funded the Contras in Nicaragua with cocaine, and specifically crack, then threw the poor sons of bitches in jail who are trying to just feed their family because they don't have any jobs. At the time, redlining was a huge problem, which is where they essentially don't let any black people into a certain part of the neighborhood because it would draw down property values. It's also known as blockbusting. And the most important thing to remember is these are non-violent offenders in most cases. They didn't commit any crime other than selling somebody something that tweaked their consciousness a little bit. And maybe somebody did die. And unless it was malicious, I don't think that they should spend the rest of their life in jail. I would let every single non-violent drug offender out immediately if I was president. I'd give every single one of them a pardon, and I mean, that's that. I would still now, and that's only if they were non-violent and there weren't other crimes that they've committed, yada yada. They have to have a good record, something similar to what San Francisco is doing. That'd be nice. But the answer is not to kill people and execute American citizens for trafficking drugs. Donald Trump's answer to every problem just seems to be more of the problem. Like I said, whether it's guns, we need more guns in the classroom. We need more guns in schools. Whether it's opioids, we need more police and border security to stop all the Mexican heroin from coming in. The only reason it's coming in... Oh, what's that? Can you reply? Yes, I can reply. What's up? Yeah, so I'll finish that story there and see if... Oh, just thanks. Okay. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can always just ask. If I'm looking at the phone, at least. And I had a few other stories I wanted to get to. The thing is, though, is I film these live ones for, like, Facebook or, individual videos. So I'll, like, cut them up and, put, like, the graphic over my shoulder and maybe add a video clip to make it more interesting than me just talking through a microphone. I'll record that. Oh, God. Okay, and then this is the last one I want to get to on today's show, and that is Trump's odd economic policies. You could say that they've been contradictory for the entirety of his term in office. You know, he campaigns on draining the swamp and then lets the creatures of the Black Lagoon run as the financial advisor. Gary Cohn actually resigned either today or yesterday, and consequently making the Dow plunge like 200 some points. But I mean, the guy's not economically literate. He's famously saying nobody knows more about debt than Donald Trump. That's the only thing I believe that he might actually be telling the truth about, which is due to the fact that, he's bankrupted however many casinos companies, fucked over so many contractors, and then has no understanding of international trade. And I'm going to admit, I do not really know how I feel on the issue of protectionism versus free market, free trade, because I think it falls somewhere in the middle. Because, well, I'll just get to the story first and we'll go on from there. So, Donald Trump imposed tariffs that were widely controversial at the time on solar panels, which was actually, and washing machines. So that's a 30% increase on solar panels. In particular, the technology used to make the photovoltaic cells inside of them. And those are produced in like China specifically, and every American manufacturer heavily relies on different kinds of photovoltaic cells to produce their solar panels. But when you raise the price of that, obviously it's going to be harder for these American companies to produce their things, costing them, as you're going to find out, millions. So the move is a major blow to the $28 billion solar industry, which gets about 80% of its solar panels products from imports. And there are two solar companies that basically bought this legislation. They are Sunuvia and Solar World Americas, both bankrupt, and they requested the tariffs, saying they would boost domestic manufacturing and add more than 100,000 jobs. Well, yeah, it would boost manufacturing because we wouldn't have anywhere to buy them anymore, but the idea that we're not going to buy shit from China because it's going to make everything in America more, cheap at the cost of all of our jobs, it just isn't true in all cases. It's a very easy and Keynesian and just basic economic idea of comparative advantage. If we can, if, let's say, China can make a photovoltaic cell for 38 cents, I'm totally making up these numbers, and we can make it for $1, and then we can create a solar panel, like the manufacturing and all of that, putting them together, for, let's say, $5 a panel, and they could do it for $3 a panel. They have an advantage, a comparative advantage to us. Well, technically a comparative advantage would be when two different products are used, but to give you an idea of what I'm trying to talk about. So if you want to make the price of a solar panel in America cheaper, it doesn't help by increasing foreign goods that are necessary for those products. Now, in some cases, I am in favor of not outsourcing jobs like the TPP and NAFTA did. But I believe every issue when it comes to politics is nuanced, and the truth isn't always left, right, or even center. Sometimes I don't know. There's just not always easy answers. But this was obviously done at the behest of these two companies, while Solar Energy Industries Association, which is a group that represents the solar panel manufacturers and installers in America, said the price increase would kill 23,000 jobs. So, Mr. Job Creator, no more jobs. Well, not no more jobs, but less jobs. Now, and also same idea with, what's it, washing machines or dishwashers? I think it was washing machines. But now recently, Trump has levied more tariffs that nobody can understand why he did it, and this is on steel and aluminum. So there's a lot of angles to this story, but I'll just go ahead and read here. China has warned that it does not want a trade war with the U.S., but will not sit idly if its economy is hurt. All right. So, U.S. President has threatened to impose a tax on EU-made cars, and earlier said trade wars are good. I mean, coming from a genius like Donald Trump, they probably are in his mind. So, Trump has described that $800 billion yearly trade deficit because of our very stupid trade deals and policies, and vowed to protect it. On Thursday, he said steel imports would face a 25% tariff and aluminum 10%. Then came Saturday's threat on EU-made cars. In January, he had already announced tariffs on solar panels and washing machines. Well, it was washing machines. So, yeah, you know what a lot of American products and industries use to produce their stuff, right? Steel and aluminum. This makes no sense because we cannot produce it cheaper. It might add some jobs to our economy, but we don't have the ability to produce steel like countries like Russia do. I mean, this is just stupid, and we get most of our steel from China. Trump has vowed to bring the steel industry back to life and the coal industry back to life. But the thing is once you're no longer able to produce that good or excavate that good or whatever at a cheaper price, then it no longer becomes an economically viable or smart way of handling business, especially policy. But his whole America First propaganda campaign is gonna hurt Americans, not help us. And this is gonna lead to a fucking trade war, or it very well could. You know, they've already, I think, what country was it that, in a tongue-in-cheek but serious way as well, raised imports on peanut butter, blue jeans, whiskey, like very obviously American items, things people would associate with America. And they're just showing, hey, buddy, you can't keep raising tariffs without any kind of reaction from us. Like, you're not the king of the world. And so what are the reactions from around the world? Well, Zhang Yuxi of China, said that it was natural that, quote, some friction will exist between the U.S. and China, given the volume of trade deficit between them surpassed $800 billion a year. If you can do tariffs, you can't do it on raw materials. Yes, that's very true. Like, it's one thing to impose a tariff on, I didn't get to read your whole comment. Sorry, it popped away. But it's one thing to impose a tariff on a European-made model of car, for instance, if we want more Americans to buy American cars. But it's not going to make sense if you're raising the cost of, you know, the products we use to make our own manufacture, or, you know, to use in manufacturing. And it has everybody scratching their head. Every economist is like, what? what is this dude talking about? And nobody's really sure what to make of it. Is it Trump trying to, beat his chest? Perhaps. Is it stupidity? Perhaps. They say that's why Gary Cohn resigned. He's like, I can't have enough of this dumbass. Like, sorry, buddy. I've had my fun. We got those nice tax cuts for Goldman Sachs. We're gonna head back to that nice cushy office without your just insane presence and all the drama that being in the Trump administration brings. Like, I don't blame him for leaving, but I wish he would have left a long time ago. That's for sure. And then Ryan Zinke, what is he? The Secretary of the Interior, selling off Bears Ears and the Grand Staircase Escalante, like a major amount of the land for mineral mining and mineral extraction. Like, he's turning our government into a fucking yard sale, essentially. Hold on, let me see if I can... Oh, okay, I can... Also, we need to negotiate all of our tariffs in order to prevent a trade war. In 2016, Obama did 200% tariffs tariffs on dumped steel, and it walked because, God, my phone, I'm sorry, I can't read it. It's a little far away for me to read the small text on it. And this is why I edit videos later, obviously. Would be dumped on steel, and it worked because the Chinese consented to it. Okay, so like I said, everything is nuanced, and there's not always a cut and right answer to steel imports. And I said earlier, I'm no economic genius, but the people who are like, what the fuck is going on here? And it's not, I like I said, I don't know how to feel about American protectionism in a absolute sense. I believe in theory and in general, yes, we want to preserve our jobs for Americans. We don't want to outsource them to overseas. But I think that's something everybody can agree on. So the EU has also reportedly been considering slapping a 25% tariff, or around $3.5 billion of imports on the U.S., targeting iconic U.S. exporters, including Levi's jeans, Harley-Davidson motorbikes, and bourbon whiskey. Brazil, Mexico, and Japan said they will consider retaliatory steps if the president presses ahead with his plan next week. So I don't think the Chinese are really gonna capitulate to Trump. I don't, and this is why. First of all, Xi Jinping is about to, he's gonna extend the amount of time he can become dictator for life, essentially, now. And during this pivotal role in Chinese history, he does not want to look weak. That's the last thing he wants. And I'm not sure exactly how China works with how the economy is tied in with the government, but I'm sure he has some say over that. And I don't see that happening. And plus, Trump has decimated our foreign relations. I mean, our State Department, John Oliver of Last Week Tonight, did a great segment about just how awful it's gotten. We don't even have a diplomat to Palestine. And we're supposed to be solving the Palestinian and Israeli conflict. How again? Oh yeah, that's right, Jared Kushner, who's been making money off of his position in the White House. Man, just not looking good. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the entire Trump family, they might as well just build a new prison, Trump prison, and, it'd be nice, have his name, big, bold letters on top of it, or all of his family and friends can go. But Trump not for colluding with Russians. I don't think he's even. I don't think Russia would trust him enough to collude with him. But yeah, you say China's economy is a mix between, socialism or communism and capitalism. Yeah. It's also weird, like, Hong Kong, Singapore are kind of China, but kind of not China. Same thing with, I think, Myanmar. Or, no, is that Malaysia? It starts with an M. So, yeah, Chinese politics is just, I don't have the time, man. So, it goes on here. Has Trump got political support for a trade war? A number of Republicans have questioned the wisdom of the tariff proposal and have been urging the president to reconsider. Orrin Hatch even said that Americans would be made to pay. So who is it benefiting? Nobody. It's Trump trying to show strength. Even Ben Sass said it was, Ben Sass, he's the guy who was on that episode of Bill Maher where Bill said the N-word, and I did a video called In Defense of Bill Maher. I don't think he's a terrible guy. I just think I disagree with his ideology. He called it a kooky 18th century protectionism that will jack up prices on American families. Well, industry bodies like the U.S. Motor and Equipment Manufacturers Association have pressed deep concern as well. But steelworkers in Pennsylvania and Indiana will welcome Mr. Trump's comments. So basically, we're going to see billions and billions and billions lost for a few people to have steel jobs. Manufacturing steel that's going to be more expensive for the manufacturers that buy imported steel. So, as if that wasn't bad enough, it is time to meet Carl, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Icahn, so Econ or Ican. I'll call him Ican because it's funnier. Carl Icahn, a billionaire financier and longtime pal of Donald Trump, sold more than 30 million of stock in steel-dependent companies days before new tariffs on steel imports were announced. Think Progress reports. Very, very coincidental. Ican's dumping of close to 1 million shares of Manitowoc Company Incorporated was revealed in an SEC filing submitted on February 22nd, 7 days before Trump said he would impose the tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum. So what makes this a particularly obvious and brazen case of insider trading and corruption is that he had never bought or sold shares of Manitowoc between January 2015 and February 2018, making the timing of the most recent sell-off look even more suspicious than it already did. And his last 8 months as Trump's special advisor for regulatory affairs has previously seen him accused of profiting off his relationships with the president. And he wouldn't be the only one. I think, who was it? I think it was the guy before Alex Azar was Health and Human Services Secretary. What's his name? It eludes me. He's the one, Mick Mulvaney. He did the same thing. He had bought shares of medical, like a medical device manufacturer before there was a increased either like an increase or a decrease in like tariffs or something or prices, and using his government position profited massively off of that, and of course walked away free because obviously, like, unless you're in government, well, if you're in government, let's just say corruption isn't a crime. because of how easy it is. I mean, just look at the lobbying industry. What is a lobbyist? They're there on the behest of somebody with money who wants their ideas put into law. And the Princeton study, that very famous one that shows that public opinion has zero in. Okay. Yes, insider trading is very corrupt. So, after Trump's announcement, shares in Manitowoc dropped by 6%, Reuters announced in a piece that describes the companies as one of the country's, quote, major consumers of steel. Just as Think Progress notes, ICANN had not bought or sold shares in Manitowoc between February 2015 and or January 2015 and February 2018, and yeah, so selling off that would obviously raise some red flags, but he had never even been like known to be a major buyer of like raw materials in the first place. So it's the first red flag is, you know, well, hey, you bought a lot of stock in steel. Why steel? Especially with all of the rhetoric going around. Hold on, let me read it. Okay, I couldn't read that comment. I'm sorry. I think I'm just gonna have to stick to doing the story, and I'll do different like live streams where I do like Q&A or face-to-face questions, because I keep forgetting where I am. But I appreciate it. I really do. In November, it was reported that the federal investigators are considering probing ICANN's role in advising Trump in regulatory changes he attempted to push through in order to benefit his his energy company, because he had previously worked for the Trump administration as a special advisor towards regulatory affairs. So there's maybe a possibility that this guy had an idea the steel import tax thing was kind of gonna come, and yeah, guilty. Does this? I mean, of course he deserves due process. He's not even gonna need to, because, you know, I bet you $1,000 right now he doesn't see the inside of a courtroom, or if he does, at least the inside of a jail cell where he should be. It's just disgusting, dude. Our government's a joke. The politicians are all bought. You know, democracy is a lie. Well, democracy isn't a lie, but our democracy is. You know, our representatives don't represent us. It's all lobbyists. It's all Israel. A surprising amount of Zionists control Washington. And I hate to sound conspiratorial, just look it up. And, yeah, I think I have anything else to say about Mr. ICANN. I can go to jail for insider trading. Nah. Other than that, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap it up. So, in conclusion, Trump is leading us to trade wars. We are seeing some progress on gun reform. I don't think I haven't really touched too much on gun reform, but, you know, the Florida Senate actually did pass some restrictions in the wake of the shooting. Then we also went over... I do not even remember the stories. You fucking seen them already, alright? I'll see you guys later. Alright, thanks for watching The Premeaux Show. If you like what I do, please comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out. I've always wanted to do that. See ya. How do I end this stupid thing? Eggs? I guess that